This is the debt payoff spreadsheet that I used back in 2013, 2014. And you can download this spreadsheet for absolutely free. I made a huge financial mess back in 2013, and I was making $58,000 a year in 2014 and $61,000 in 2015. And I had a total of $110,000 in credit card debt, personal loans, and car loans. And I was spending money like I was making $1 million a year. And I've never tracked my expenses closely and decided to ignore my problem until one day I thought it would be fun to create my very first net worth statement. And that did not turn out well. And this was my income in 2014. I made $58,000 that year in the military. And luckily, I got promoted from E5 to E6 in October 2014 after turning off my retirement contributions because I was on the old TSP plan without any matches. My paychecks were around $2,450 on the 1st and the 15th. And I kept my expenses under $2,400 every month and used my other $2,500 towards my debt repayment every single month. In 2015, my income increased to $61,000. My paychecks increased by about $100 on the 1st and the 15th. And I still kept my expenses under $2,400 every month and used my other $2,700 towards my debt repayment every single month. And I decided to prioritize my credit cards because those interest rates were just outrageous. These are also variable interest rates. So the rates could go up at any time. So if you've been paying attention to the Federal Reserve, as they raise interest rates, credit card interest rates will go up too. So you should always prioritize, in my opinion, credit cards, buy now, pay later, HELOC, and other variable interest debts to pay off first. Credit cards could cost you anywhere between 20 and 30% in interest. Buy now, pay later debts are just as bad as those credit cards. If you have any payday loans, I would actually prioritize those over your credit cards because they're considered predatory and lending and charge you like 200 or 300% in interest. These high interest debts will destroy your financial future if you don't take care of them now. But listing them by the highest interest rate to the lowest interest rate is also known as the debt avalanche method. But as you can see here, that I put the lowest balance at the top, which was Capital One with 19% APR, followed by Star Card with $8,000, another Capital One with $9,000, Chase Freedom with $12,000, and then USAA Visa with $12,000. Since I had the same balance between Chase and USAA, I just prioritized the one with the higher interest rates. Chase had 24% and USAA had 21%. So I prioritized Chase over USAA. The next priority was my fixed interest rate loan because unlike my credit cards, those interest rates were locked in. So I listed my fixed interest rate loans from the smallest balance to the largest balance, regardless of the interest rate. This is also known as the debt snowball method. You could theoretically put the credit card debt in the snowball method, but I decided against it because the credit card interest rates were just killing me. So my USAA personal loan was $15,000 with a 12% APR, and the minimum payment was $150 per month. My TSP loan, also known as the 401k loan, was $15,000 with a 4% APR, and the minimum payment was $100 a month. And I also had two car loans. The first one was a 2007 Acura with a 4% APR and owed about $20,000. And I also had a 2013 Honda Civic, which was a stupid purchase, with $23,000 and a 4% APR. My total car payments alone were $673 per month, and they were absolutely killing me too. So here's what I did with the Acura. Here's the first step I did. It was from the divorce anyway, so it wasn't something that I was going to keep. I took it to the Acura dealership to find out if they were willing to buy it back. Surprisingly, they took it back, but it was upside down by about $4,500. And luckily, I was able to sell the house that my ex and I owned and made a 50-50 profit on the equity from the sale. So I put the profit towards the $4,500 for the Acura loan that I owed while the dealership paid for the rest of the balance. That alone saved me $313 per month in car payments. And then the very next day, I took my 2013 Honda Civic back to the Honda dealership and asked them if they wanted to buy it back. They actually counter offered to buy the vehicle back if I leased a 2014 Honda Civic for 3 years for $175 per month, as long as I drove. What was it? It was like less than 12,000 miles per year. I thought it was a better deal than paying $360 a month. So I took the deal. But if I had to do it again, I would have sold my Honda Civic as is and bought a piece of crap car for $2,000 or $3,000. So by trading in my vehicle, I saved $498 in monthly payments. My debt was reduced from $108,892.40 to $66,315.17 because I no longer own those vehicles. Now I have more breathing room to tackle my credit card debt, right? Could I pay off $66,000 in debt in 2 years, making $58,000 a year? It is absolutely doable. And I'm going to show you this. This is the debt payoff spreadsheet that I used back in 2013, 2014. And you can download this spreadsheet for absolutely free by visiting firesuch.com/resources. I'm going to give you a quick tutorial on how this spreadsheet works, and it's extremely easy for anyone to use. And if you can't see this spreadsheet, what you can do with the YouTube app or on your device or on your tablet, you can actually pinch on the screen and enlarge the spreadsheet, okay? Or the screen. You can zoom in on the screen if you want to. So if you look at the left 4 columns right here, okay? The first one here is the total payments I made on the 1st and the 15th. The second column here is the total interest that I paid on the 1st and the 15th. The third column here is the total debt that I have remaining. So as you can see, it slowly decreased, right? From, 59,000, or it was more than that, but all the way down to 0, okay? And because I got paid on the 1st and the 15th, I made my payments on the 1st and the 15th so that I could pay down my debt a lot faster. Let me know in the comment section down below if you want to get the bi-weekly spreadsheet. So let me go ahead and zoom back out, all right? So the first credit card I paid off was my Capital One MasterCard, okay? It was the lowest balance out of all 5 credit cards. Luckily, I still had some money left from the sale of my house from the divorce. So I was able to pay $4,000 right here on January 1st. It was around January 2nd or January 3rd. The balance instantly decreased by half. And then on the 15th, I was able to put $1,740 into the same credit card while I was still making minimum payments on my other credit cards and personal loans. I made extra payments towards Capital One Master up to the maximum budget of $2,450. So by February 1st, right here, I just paid off the remaining $283.53. I still had to pay $4.42 in interest because I still had a balance on my credit card, okay? That makes sense so far, right? So this is paid off. The next thing I went to was my Star Card, okay? This was the military Star Card. When I paid off my first credit card, I had that extra $60 per month in my budget because that was the minimum payment for Capital One Master in the first debt that I paid off. So I just did the Snowball method by paying at least $1,000 on the 1st and the 15th. This one, I felt like it took a while because I still had to make minimum payments on my other debts. So it took me about 4.5 months to pay off $8,000 for the military Star Card. Your first and second credit cards will always feel like they take the longest. And man, I had to budget really, really hard for those first 2 credit cards because I had so many other debts that I had to pay just the minimum payments, right? And this was paid off as of May 15, 2014. So starting on June 1st, I moved on to Capital One Visa card. I told you I was a mess, okay? And this was when I started to feel the momentum going for me because now I have $140 freed up every month from the first 2 credit cards that I no longer paid. So I paid about $1,100 on the first and about $1,000 on the 15th. And I paid off on September 15th, which was a total down here of $8,912.36 in principal. and $831.16 in interest. So in 9 months, I've paid off 3 credit cards, okay? But I made a mistake in September 2014 by purchasing a house for $180,000. In hindsight, most of you would say this was a great purchase because the housing market was at the near bottom at the time, right? $180,000. You're not going to find out anywhere now. But the problem was that I was still in debt. So what happened as soon as I moved into my new house? My water tank just exploded one night, and that cost me $800 to just clean it up and replace it. My garbage disposal stopped working a few days later, and that cost me about $400 in labor in replacement. One of my toilets stopped working, and that's probably because my daughter probably put a toy in there that just clogged up the entire toilet, and that cost me another $300 for plumbing and replacement parts. So within the first month I moved into my house, I had to pay $1,500 in repair, and I got to tell you, bad things do come in threes. Okay, and remember I mentioned earlier that I only had $300 in cash. Well, I ended up borrowing $1,200 to make the repairs happen, which delayed my debt-free journey by about a month. Starting in October, I moved on to the 4th credit card with $12,000. At this point, I freed up $230 in minimum payments from paying off my first 3 credit cards. At the same time, because I continued to pay down my credit card, my credit balance actually decreased by a few $100s. Hooray. I also called Chase and asked to pause on minimum payment requirements for 3 months for hardship. You can do the same thing. You can actually call the bank. It really depends on the bank, okay? And find out if they can put your credit card on forbearance. The maximum time that I heard was like maybe 6 months. It's not like a mortgage forbearance during COVID. They're not going to just let you do it for 12 months, 24 months. It's not the same as the student loans either. Credit cards are a little bit tricky because that is actually one of the largest revenue streams for every bank, okay? Think about that for a second. And the downside of doing the forbearance is that also my interest just continued to accrue during the forbearance. So I could just pause on the minimum payments, but they still charge me interest. So because my credit card was already maxed out, that means it was going to go over the limit. What happens when you go over the limit? They charge you extra fees for that. Think about that. And this one took me a while because it had the second highest balance at $12,000. So it ended up taking me 7 months from October 2014 until April 2015 to completely pay it off. Okay. When I paid that off, I remember, man, feeling really good about it because, man, 12 grand. But then I was like, man, I don't want to take another 7 months to pay it off. When I got to my very last credit card, a miracle happened. I applied for what's called a SCRA, which stands for Service Members Civil Relief Act, with Chase and Capital One. Okay, so if you've ever served in the military, active duty, guard, reserve, I believe you have to be active duty though. You have to be on active orders. You can apply for what's called a Service Members Civil Relief Act or the Military Lending Act. So they see that you've deployed. I've deployed in the past. I've gone to Afghanistan, Iraq, Kuwait in the past. They saw that and they say, all right, we're going to lower your interest rates. Some of the debts that I had were actually carried over from before I joined the military and during my military service. Chase and Capital One decided to lower my interest rates from 24% to 4%. Spread the words. Let your buddies know. If you know any veteran friends or people who are serving in the military, let them know about the SCRA and apply for it if they're some massive credit card debt or if they're trying to pay off a credit card debt. Because I got a $5,500 refund from Chase and Capital One for the 20% interest rate difference since inception. It was like $3,500 from Capital One because I had 2 credit cards with them and another $2,000 from Chase for having that Chase Freedom Card. The only bank that didn't lower my interest rate was USAA, which was surprising because all they do is serve the people in our U.S. Armed Forces. But $2,500 of that paid off the remaining balance on my USAA Visa card. And I was done with my credit cards, but I still had 2 more loans that I had to pay off. And because I continued to pay down my personal loan by making minimum payments all the way back from January to here in August 2015, my balance decreased from $9,000 to $7,000. And I used that check that I got from Capital One and Chase, paid $3,000 off on my personal loan, and then paid off the remaining balance by October 1st, 2015. And then there was one last one. That was my TSP loan. You see how just everything snowballed into one debt after another, okay? But this was a tricky one because I had to send, it was weird, TSP does it weird. They wanted me to send a $100 check every single month to the TSP. I had to mail it. There was no digital or none of that. It was to mail it. The loan was already at a 4% fixed interest rate. So my loan was reduced from $9,000 in January 2014 to $7,500 in September 2015. So I had to call TSP to make sure that it was okay to make extra repayments on my loan, and they were fine with it. So I sent a check in the amount of about $2,800 on October 1st, $2,600 in November, and then the remaining balance was about it was $2,095.25 in December 2015. Okay, if you've ever dealt with TSP, you know how slow they process just about everything. So I had to wait about 10 days for the check to get to TSP and another 10 days for that balance to apply to the loan. I saw a $0 balance on the TSP loan on January 2nd, 2016. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the day I became debt free. And as soon as I mailed my check, before I even got to January 2nd, as soon as I mailed my check in the first week of December, you know what I did? I went out to eat sushi all by myself that night. And I remember having just tears of joy because that's how excited I was to be debt free. My income on average was around $60,000 a year in take home income. My paychecks were around $2,450 on the 1st and the 15th. I did everything in my power to keep my total expenses at $2,400. My other $2,400 went to my debt repayments. I was literally living on ramen noodles, which I will never eat again. Not the actual ramen, but the cup noodles, okay? And Spam musubi almost every day, if not every other day. But I still didn't tell anyone about my debt-free journey until I started my YouTube channel in late 2021 because I was still embarrassed about my stupid financial decisions. But I decided to tell this story today because I know there are many Americans who are in a similar situation. So in summary, here's how I prioritize my debt. I understand that everyone has their own method, and many financial experts might even say it's not exactly the fastest way to pay down debt, but this was my method and what worked for me. If you're my client, I do what works for you and the fastest way to pay down your debt. But because I had 5 maxed out credit cards, I used the debt Avalanche method by prioritizing my credit cards over my car loans, personal loans, and the TSP loan. My credit cards had variable interest rates, and they were anywhere between 19 and 24%. Those interest rates were hurting me the most as far as my cash flow goes. So I decided to prioritize paying off my credit cards over fixed interest loans. The debt avalanche method is to prioritize your debt, highest interest rates, regardless of the balance. The snowball method is when you prioritize paying off the debt from the smallest balance to the largest balance, regardless of the interest rate. So if you look back at my debt payoff spreadsheet, I paid off the credit card with the smallest balance first and then paid off the largest balance last. When I paid off the first credit card, I was able to pay the second credit card with more money because the minimum payment on the first credit card went to my second credit card. When I paid off my second credit card, I used the minimum payments from the first 2 credit cards and applied to the third credit card. That's why it's called the snowball method, because the snowball got bigger and bigger as it rolled down the hill, right? Hear me out, okay? This is gonna sound a little harsh here, but I want you to hear me out. Behavior is everything if you ever wanna get out of the paycheck to paycheck cycle. These are some of the comments that I see that people leave on my videos. I don't have time. I don't earn enough. I don't know how to budget because it is too hard. I'll worry about it later. Debt is just a part of my life. My spouse and I don't get involved with our finances. I spend money to feel better about myself. I did that. Guilty of that. I did that. I'm waiting for the government to forgive my loans. Keep waiting, okay? Just keep waiting. Look, I'm gonna give you the truth that you probably don't want to hear. Nobody else or the government gives a crap about your debt. The only person who can solve your debt problem is you. When I coach my clients, I don't tell them what to do. I never do. I give them the tools and guidance so that they can make an informed decision to pay down the debt fast. One of my clients just paid off $22,800 in debt in just 7 months. They had debts with buy now, pay later, a truck, and some credit cards. Did the government give them money? No, they didn't. Did they consolidate their loans? Absolutely not. Did they need to file for bankruptcy? Not at all. I gave them the tools they needed, and they changed their behavior with spending. I know it sounds like I'm marketing, but I'm not. You can find all of these resources anywhere. There are some YouTube channels, they charge you money so that you can download their courses or whatever. You can download all of my resources for free. If you don't want to talk to me at all, that's fine. Just go get those resources. Get those free spreadsheets. I don't care what you do with them. But my clients, they couldn't start investing in their Roth IRAs, 401k, and saving for travel until they had these debts paid off. That's why they prioritized paying off those buy now, pay later, credit cards, and truck loan. If you're in a similar situation, I really encourage you to schedule a free session with me by visiting firespreadsheet.com/coaching. I am all about helping people get out of debt because I remember what that was like. It was emotionally draining for me to look at almost $110,000 in total debt. But that $47,000 in credit card debt was the most stressful one because the interest rates were just outrageously high. If you have credit card debt and invest at the same time, you're not making anything in return. You're making maybe a 10% return on investment while repaying 25% in credit card interest rate. So your net return is actually negative 15%, right? The good news was that I had some pay increases in 2014 and 2015 that helped me repay my debt faster. By the end of 2016, I left active duty military and found a job in the private sector that paid over 6 figures in income. But that was 10 months after I became debt free. So why should you wait until your income increases to start tackling your debt? I didn't want to wait. I was making $58,000 a year, $61,000 a year. I didn't want to wait. I didn't have to wait until I made more money to do it. If you're ever doubting yourself whether you can pay off your debt, you shouldn't, because I know you can. Would you make some sacrifices for the next 12 months so that you can save, invest, and travel wherever you want to go? Because I'll tell you that the 2 years I sacrificed were so worth it. I'm all about helping you achieve your financial freedom so that you can build generational wealth. I encourage you, please download all of my financial resources for absolutely free by visiting firespreadsheet.com/resources. And if you want to schedule your one-time free coaching session, you can visit firespreadsheet.com/coaching. For all the paid coaching sessions, the prices are on firespreadsheet.com/pricing. This has been another beast of a video, and I hope you got a lot out of it.